If you're here to get some pain relief from migraines and learn some exercises to help you do that, you're in the right spot. I'm going to share with you 3 of my favorite strategies that will help stop the migraine and get you back to the place you want to be, working, living, being with your family, doing what you would normally do without the pain and discomfort. As someone who suffered from migraines myself, I can relate to you if you're suffering with them at home right now. They're some of the worst pain you can imagine, and they're really sinister. Not to mention, the people that don't have migraines can't possibly relate to someone like yourself who is. It's a silent issue, and unfortunately, those that have never had migraines think that they know what's going on. They think it's just a normal headache that you can sleep off or stop stressing about so much and just get it to go away. In my clinical experience, that's not how this stuff works. Not to mention, every migraine is different. They're complicated. There's many factors that could contribute to one. So it's not just like a one-size-fits-all approach that erases all migraines for good. What I find with any kind of migraine sufferer is if you're predisposed to it, then you've got some resilience built up where you won't necessarily trigger a migraine. But if the stressors start picking up and you get enough of them, over time your resilience is going to go down as the stressors go up. And once there's enough stress, you're going to tip the bucket and you're going to have a migraine. And the only way to get back to square one is to reduce the stress. Now that's the long-term fix. We're not talking about that so much right now, but I think it's worth noting that most migraine sufferers, they're dealing with an issue from one of 5 different areas. It's an emotional stressor or combination of that, nutritional stress, exercise and movement related stress, sleep stress, and possibility to have a spinal or a neurological stressor as well. Any one of those 5 pieces or issues could contribute to why you would have a migraine. And if we're ever going to really correct the underlying issues, we've got to start looking at each one of those areas, which is stuff that we do in our practice. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to try to give you some quick hitters that you can start getting into and hopefully cutting this migraine down right now and get you back to where you want to be. Now, the first exercise I'm going to share with you is one of my favorites. And it's a little known muscle that runs up your back into your neck. Before I get to it, if you're finding value with this video, please go below the video, like the video, subscribe to our channel. So the levator scapula muscle, it attaches to the top part of your shoulder blade, which is going to be positioned somewhere right here. And it runs and attaches right in the middle of your neck, right on the outside of those vertebrae. And what that muscle is responsible for is elevating your shoulder blades up, hence the name levator scapula. When you're stressed, generally speaking, we adopt this posture. And if that muscle is constantly engaged because we're stressed out all the time, it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, which can affect a lot of different things. Obviously, the muscle themselves and the tissues there, but also it could affect blood flow and it could affect nervous system function in the area, which can limit you in a lot of ways and also contribute to migraines. Like I said, it's on the back of your shoulder blade. So when you press your hands in, you'll feel the top of your shoulder blade, and you'll likely, especially if you're feeling migraines or getting migraines from this muscle, you're gonna probably feel a rope or a very tight and tender spot, possibly multiple spots, right along that ridge. Find it, palpate it with your fingers, and then begin to dig. I like to make circles, and I'll move around. The point of this exercise is not to break everything down all at once. In fact, generally with migraine sufferers, the tension is so intense, it's going to be near impossible to break it all down in one sitting. But I would encourage you to go back to it 2 to 3 times in the next hour, hour and a half. Spend a couple minutes in that area and break up the tissue. If it's the migraine that's one-sided, this is generally going to have some involvement of your levator scapula. That's what we see clinically. So use your fingers and break up the side of involvement until you just can't deal with it anymore. Maybe your fingers get tired or the pain discomfort is too intense. Take a break, come back to it in a little bit. The goal of this exercise is get to the point where that tissue along your shoulder blade is tender to the touch, meaning when you just press in with about the pressure you would place over your eyeball, that's about the extent that you would need to elicit some discomfort. When you've got that kind of feeling, it's because you've broken up the tissue and created an inflammatory response. And that's a good thing. You're starting to heal some of that tissue. You've broken up some adhesions, which is a good thing. And we're going to start to see things change for you for the better. Another part of the levator scapula muscle that we've got to entertain is what goes up right along your neck here into those vertebrae. C3, C4 vertebrae are right in the middle of your neck. And like I said, the levator scapula, it attaches to the outside where my fingers are. So my advice would be to get in there and again, palpate around, feel for the tight, tender spots. If you find them, that's where you need to dig in. Use your fingers, the same kind of motion that we did earlier at the base of your shoulder blade or the top of your shoulder blade there. Use your fingers, make circles, break up tissue that's tight and tender, and use the same approach. Go until you just can't handle it anymore, take a break. Come back to it a little bit later on and repeat until we get it to the point where it's tender just to the touch. The second exercise is going to be for another muscle that runs up the back. That's called your trapezius muscle. Now the trapezius muscle is more of a diamond-shaped muscle. It starts in your middle lower back and it runs to your shoulder. And then on the other side, it does the same thing. It runs from the middle back and it goes to the opposite shoulder. From the shoulder, it goes right back up and it attaches at your skull. So it makes essentially a diamond on either side of your spine. The reason that's important is the trapezius muscle's job is to bring everything upright and extend you back. Bring your head back over your shoulders. Again, if you're constantly in a stress state, not only do your shoulders shrug up, you also tend to round forward and the head drops down. It's part of the stress response. So your trapezius muscle is constantly engaged, much like the levator scapula muscle we were talking about before. So some of this pain and discomfort could easily be attributed to tightness in the trapezius muscle. A simple way to go about reducing that is by stretching the trapezius muscle. We start by grabbing either side of our head with the opposite arm. So this would be the left side of my head, this would be my right arm. I'm grabbing it and I'm tractioning it down towards my armpit. Now, when I get here, I can stay like that and just put some gentle pressure there. I can also engage my shoulder on the other side and try to pull it down. Sometimes I'll grab onto a chair if I'm sitting in one and pull down with my shoulder to just get a little more separation there. And then lastly, if you want to go further, you can actually turn your head towards your armpit, pulling again and looking down. Okay, so that's the trapezius stretch. That's going to work this side, and we got another side to it again. It's a big diamond, so it's coming up the back of my neck here. Again, I'll pull from one side and traction down. I can engage my shoulder and pull it down too to get a little more of a stretch. And then lastly, if I want to turn, point my head towards my armpit and pull again, I can get a deeper stretch. I'll take that from 10 to 20 seconds depending on how I'm feeling, and I can repeat that as needed throughout the day. That's another great tool to start reducing some of the pain and discomfort you're experiencing. The third exercise I'd recommend is to mobilize and break up any adhesions that the trapezius muscle is creating at the very top of your skull. What we were talking about there was addressing more of the middle of the trapezius muscle along your shoulders. Now let's talk about where the trapezius attaches, up at the back of your skull. It attaches on something we call the nuchal line. It runs right along the top of your skull here, and you'll feel it if you ever put your finger behind your ear. There's a bump back here called your mastoid process, and you can follow the line around to about the middle of your skull there. That's your nuchal line, and it goes from either side. It kind of forms an arc. Now the trapezius muscle comes up and it attaches right here. And so what we want to do is find those spots where it's attached and start to break them up, because generally speaking, it's going to pull from this spot and it's going to create a lot of discomfort, tightness as a result of that. There's two ways to do this. The first way is by just using simply your fingers. So you're going to put your fingers back behind that area and start palpating around until you find the tight, tender spots. Again, that's one side. You've also got the other side over here. And you're just kind of working your way up and around that arc, okay? You'll know what I mean, because you're gonna have a hard bony side, which is up at the top, and then you're gonna have more of the softer side where the muscle is right below it. You wanna find right where they connect. That's the nuchal line, and you're gonna find some tight, tender spots. The entire line might not be tight, so you'll wanna find those tight spots, and you can use a circular motion or a counter-circular motion to break up the tissue. And then, if that feels like it's either not going as well as you'd like, or you'd like to get in deeper, or your fingers are just getting tired, you can use a tennis ball. Lay on your back, put the tennis ball right in that ridge line, and simply do a no motion while you're on the tennis ball, and that will generally be enough movement to start to break up that tissue. And just like I told you with the other exercises, if you consistently do this throughout the day, a couple different sessions, you're gonna get to the point where that area is pretty tender just to the touch. That's where you're gonna lay off. Take a break. Give yourself a little bit of time. Let your body heal. It's trying to heal those areas that you've broken down, which is a good thing. Let it happen. You've done enough, and that should start to bring down the intensity of the migraine. And then lastly, I wanna leave you a little bonus video. This is less around the muscle tissue itself and more around what you're doing in terms of your focus. I find when my pain levels are getting way too high, the best thing I can do to bring them down almost immediately is to focus on my breath. By focusing on my breath, I change the channel. My brain can only focus on one thing at one time anyway, so you can hijack the pain signal that's constantly berating your brain and trying to give you this alert message to let you know there's a problem there. You can stop that signal by simply focusing on a deep inhalation through your nose and an exhalation out through your mouth. And the more you focus on the breath, the coolness of the air coming in and the heat of the air going out, the less pain signal you're going to experience and should start to bring some of that down. Combine all those strategies together and see how they work for you. If you've got any questions, let us know in the comment box below. And as always, if you liked our content, please subscribe to our channel and like the video. Thanks for watching.